Video I'm going to be discussing Bryan Danielson leaving Ring of Honor and getting signed to WWE. My thoughts on that. Rey Mysterio just got suspended for 30 days. Some thoughts on TNA Impact from last night. TNA Knockouts Tag Division titles, what I think of that. And a few other things I'm going to throw out as well. The one thing WWE is throwing around is more gimmick-based pay-per-views that they're thinking about maybe doing an idea for a pay-per-view. So within this video, I'll be giving my thoughts on all that. So the first thing I want to start with is obviously the two big news stories. The first one being Bryan Danielson leaving Ring of Honor and getting signed to WWE. Now, many people have asked me what are my thoughts on this, so I'm here to just start giving my thoughts on that at first. Now, the one thing I'm going to say, I'm not going to lie and say that this isn't a blow to Ring of Honor. This is somewhat going to hurt Ring of Honor, but is it going to pretty much make them go out of business, and is this going to be, the first thing, and they're like a sinking ship right now? No, I wouldn't go that far, but there are some talents within Ring of Honor that I would say if you lose them along with Bryan Danielson, obviously you lost Bryan Danielson. Say if you lose someone like the Briscoes, which I think as deep as the tag team division in Ring of Honor is right now, and as good as it is, the Briscoes are that one tag team that is, so over with the fans, and probably they're one of the very few tag teams in any wrestling company in North America that's actually very marketable. So with them, if WWE has any interest in them and they leave Ring of Honor, that's going to be a really huge loss for them. Now, there hasn't been any interest to my knowledge of the Briscoes, but WWE has had interest in two other Ring of Honor wrestlers, one being Nigel McGuinness, which doesn't really shock me at all, and Delirious, which since they didn't think Colt Cabana was funny in WWE and didn't think his comedy would work in WWE, kind of surprised me they're even thinking about Delirious. But as far as Bryan Danielson, yes, it is a loss for Ring of Honor, but it's not going to be them going out of business or anything like this. But there are some people that will probably compare this to 10 years ago in ECW when ECW lost Taz. And it's kind of, somewhat of the same parallels. You have two of the, best, in-ring workers within your company, and they go to WWE. Now, the one thing is, obviously, a lot of people are going to be worried, is WWE going to utilize Bryan Danielson, or they actually use him right? The one thing is, I actually think WWE will possibly maybe use Bryan Danielson right. Now, the one thing is, that's good on his side already. He has a lot of people within WWE that are batting for him. He's got JR on his side. He's got Shawn Michaels, which really helps him having Shawn Michaels on his side. And he has William Regal on his side. So you got three people right there that really doesn't hurt having on your side. So with that, I think that would really help him right there. And the one thing WWE is really hurting for right now is having, that technical-based, technically sound wrestler. You don't have Kurt Angle there anymore. And Benoit has passed away. So with that, you don't really got that, technical wrestler within WWE. So with that, Bryan Danielson really could fill that void. And the one thing is that I hope they don't give him an idiotic gimmick. That's the one thing that always hurts any wrestler is, like, if WWE gives them a terrible name or a terrible gimmick. Just as long as they, I hope they keep him, using the name The American Dragon Bryan Danielson. At least use the name Bryan Danielson. Maybe not the American Dragon Bryan Danielson. And maybe not the same gimmick, the best in the world, but I think that would work out, having him come in claiming he's the best in the world. Maybe kind of, say he's a was trained by Shawn Michaels. Maybe do something with them down the line, which would be great. But the one thing is, right now, because I know when he gets into WWE, because right now he's going to probably go to FCW for a couple months, or he might just go straight to television. I don't know. I don't think he's going to go straight to television. I think he'll at least go to FCW for a little bit. But the one thing is, when he goes straight to television, do not expect him to go to Monday Night Raw or SmackDown at first, because he's most likely going to go to ECW first. So right now, I already know that's going to happen, so I'm not going to be bitching about him being on the ECW brand, but a lot of people I know that when he does end up on the ECW brand, a lot of people are going to pretty much be bitching, why is WWE going to not do anything with him, throw him on the ECW brand? Well, the one thing the ECW brand does good at is building up talent. It's one of those things that's pretty much a developmental territory that happens to have a television deal and is under the letters ECW, so he's obviously going to get started there first. Then maybe after, being on there for about, maybe 6 months or so, or maybe a little less, then put him on a SmackDown or Monday Night Raw. I think he would fit well on SmackDown. Monday Night Raw, I'm not quite sure about. I know he could hold his own in the ring with the likes of, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, John Cena, and several other big names like Randy Orton and Batista. But will WWE think that? That's the one question, even though, like I said, he's got some good guys on his side that really can help him along and really can bat for him as far as how far he goes within WWE. Because obviously, no matter what wrestling promotion is, politics backstage somewhat play some type of factor in it. So I'm hoping Bryan Danielson, does good in WWE, and I wish him all the best. And thankfully, the one thing I'm not seeing is a lot of people saying Bryan Danielson is a sellout for going to WWE. That's the one thing that, as soon as, I heard about it on Sunday night and that Bryan Danielson got signed to WWE, I was expecting to go, on Ring of Honor's message board, or seeing a lot of people post videos saying Bryan Danielson is a sellout, this and that. Thankfully, not that many people are saying that, even though probably his last match in Ring of Honor, there'll be that, 2 or 3 idiots within that crowd that probably will chant that, but I know a lot of fans will pretty much have them, pretty much muted out by telling them to shut the fuck up. So with that, I'm glad Bryan Danielson's got this new opportunity for his career, and he's pretty much done everything he could within Ring of Honor, so don't have any hard feelings him going to WWE. I mean, the one thing is, I kind of will miss seeing him in Ring of Honor, but I think this is the best for him. At this point in his career, he kind of needs to do it. At least try to somewhat make it on the main stage, see how it works. If it doesn't work out, obviously Bryan Danielson always has a home to go back to in Ring of Honor, so hopefully it works out for him, and I wish him the best. Next thing is Rey Mysterio. He just got suspended for 30 days for failing a wellness policy test. Now, this doesn't shock me. Rey Mysterio failed a wellness policy test, because obviously anyone that's familiar with him from 10 years ago, how he looked in WCW or ECW, or not even 10 years ago, 2000, 2001 WCW, and then saw how much bigger he got in WWE, it's not really no shocker that he's on steroids. I mean, I think everyone already knows that, and if you don't know that, if you didn't notice that, you're a fucking moron, I gotta say. But it doesn't shock me. He failed a wellness policy test. Now, the one thing that does shock me is that WWE actually suspended him. That's the one thing that does shock me, because WWE is always pick and choose with the wellness policy test. The wellness policy within WWE is a complete joke. It is a sham. It doesn't, count as anything. It's just something WWE has there to pretty much save their ass. That's pretty much all they got it there for after, the whole Benoit tragedy. That's the reason why it got implemented. If the Benoit tragedy never happened, there would be no wellness policy within WWE. And they just use it to pretty much save their ass. Now, Rey Mysterio, he was on the steroids list from, I think, the ESPN list, or some list back in October or September of 2007, so his name did show up on that, but he didn't get suspended. I think him and Batista both were listed on that list, but didn't get suspended. So obviously that shows WWE's, they pick and choose who they want to actually suspend. Now, they might just be making an example of Rey Mysterio here, because Rey Mysterio was kind of, pushing to have a lengthy IC title reign. Maybe WWE kind of did this to, prove an example. You listen to what we want to do, and obviously with Rey Mysterio getting suspended, now his suspension doesn't go in effect till Wednesday, September 2nd, 2009, this coming Wednesday. So that's a day after the SmackDown taping on Tuesday. So obviously this coming Tuesday, Rey Mysterio will be losing the IC Championship to most likely Dolph Ziggler, because Dolph Ziggler is the #1 contender for the IC Championship. Now, originally it was going to be a match at the Breaking Point pay-per-view, but at this point, obviously with Rey Mysterio's suspension and Breaking Point's 2 weeks after that date, or 2.5 weeks after that date, he's obviously going to lose the title and lose the IC strap this coming Tuesday to Dolph Ziggler. So Dolph Ziggler really lucked out here with the suspension of Rey Mysterio. He's going to obviously win the IC Championship this coming Wednesday. And doesn't shock me, Rey Mysterio got suspended. The thing that shocked me is WWE actually, listened to the wellness policy, or maybe they're just trying to make an example of him. Who knows? I guess that's just something you're going to have to speculate. Is WWE's wellness policy is a joke? I think everyone knows that. In WWE, I guess they're trying to make some example out of Rey Mysterio, or someone hasn't been suspended for a long time, and they're just doing this to make it look like their wellness policy actually means something. The other thing is TNA Impact from last night. I gotta say, TNA Impact from last night, I actually enjoyed the show overall. I thought for a TNA Impact, for a 2-hour wrestling program, it was very enjoyable. That's the thing that really shocks me. I mean, they put on what they did, a very good entertaining show last night for TNA Impact, but then their last two pay-per-views have pretty much been piss poor, other than maybe having one good match per pay-per-view. And then they had, you know, a very good Impact last night. Good X Division matchup on there with the Samoa Joe and Pope D'Angelo De Niro taking on Daniels and Suicide. That was actually a decent X Division match. Good build-up for Samoa Joe and Daniels. An excellent women's match for television. Probably one of the best women's matches I've seen as far as mainstream women's wrestling goes this year, with the Daphne versus Hamada match, Yoko Hamada's debut in TNA, and a no disqualification match. Very good women's match. I would recommend anyone to see that match. That's one thing I would say is a must-see from last night's TNA Impact. And another thing that's a must-see is Daivari promo that he cut. I actually put the link in the description for the promo. I thought it was an excellent promo, and in my opinion, promo of the year. Obviously, some people might think the promo is a little too controversial, but the sad thing is everything he said in that promo is not, you know, just him trying to, it's pretty much him trying to get cheap heat, obviously, but everything he said in that promo, the sad thing is actually true. So check out that promo. I have it in the link. That, in my opinion, is probably the best promo this year. And there's very few promos within the wrestling industry that, you know, have you going, whoa, that was fucking excellent. I mean, there's been, you know, several within the last couple years in Ring of Honor. Nigel's done some. Bryan Danielson, his promo against Nigel McGuinness at the 6th anniversary show back in 2008. That was an incredible promo. Jim Cornette's promo against Combat Zone. And some, you know, TNA promos, you know, the Samoa Joe thing, taking a shot at Scott Hall. Rhino's thing with the ECW title belt. And, you know, few within WWE, but there's few and far between as far as wrestling where there's a promo that's like, oh my God, that was just fucking amazing. And I think that's what that promo gave you last night with TNA Impact. I thought the whole overall show was good. Now, as far as the my thoughts on the TNA Knockouts tag team titles that they're doing, the tag team women's division that TNA is trying to do. Now, I think this is not a good idea for TNA. Now, if they had 10 or 15 more women's competitors and they actually had a very deep women's division, where they have a pretty good women's division, but I don't think they have a deep enough women's division to have a tag team title and a singles title as well. That's just a little too much right there. I don't have no problem with having one or two, you know, knockouts matches per show. That works out, but I think, you know, tag titles and in a singles title is a little overkill right there, and TNA already has 5 titles even before they have the Knockouts tag titles, so that's 6 titles. That's a little too much for a 2-hour wrestling program, and only a wrestling program that just has, you know, 1 show per week. Now, if they had another show, 6 titles wouldn't seem as bad, but it seems a little overkill right there. And like I said, they just don't have a deep enough women's roster to have both singles and tag titles, and I think it's just like the WCW Cruiserweight Tag Team titles. I don't think it's going to last. I think you'll probably see it last for probably a couple months, but I'll be shocked if it's something that actually does good and lasts past the end of this year. That would really shock me. I hope TNA does the best with it because, you know, I like women's wrestling a lot, but I just think that's not going to work out for TNA. Like I said, they don't have enough women to actually try to pull it off. Now, if they got, you know, 10 or 15, you know, women's competitors, a mix of, you know, talent from the independent scene, some from Shimmer and Japan and all over the world, then they probably could pull it off. Now, there's been kind of a little teaser, I guess TNA is saying that there's going to be a special participant and surprise within the TNA Knockouts tag team title tournament. Don't know who it's going to be. Maybe it's going to be someone like highly doubt it would be someone like Trish. Maybe someone like Lita. I think I would really like to see Lita there. But I really can't think of anyone other than, you know, Trish, Lita. And I don't think either one of them two would do it. Jacqueline's already been in TNA, so it can't be her. Jazz, I don't think that would be. She isn't remembered enough to actually make it, you know, anything within TNA as far as, oh, this person really shocked me, she's in TNA. Someone like Trish or Lita, that would kind of, you know, be a little interesting to see, and I think a lot of people would like to see it. Last thing is, WWE is planning on throwing out some ideas for more gimmick pay-per-views. Now, within these 3 gimmick ideas that they got planned, I think there's one of them they should do, the other 2 don't even think about doing. The first two that I don't think they should do at all is a street fight pay-per-view, which this is something that you shouldn't do at all. You already got the Extreme Rules pay-per-view, formerly known as One Night Stand. You already got that. That's your, pay-per-view to pretty much have anything goes on the pay-per-view. So no point of having a street fight pay-per-view plus that. That's just no point of having two pay-per-views to have the same type of gimmick. And it's just like, TNA's Knockouts Division Tag Titles. It's just overkill. You don't need two of the same things, and it's just a little too much. Now, the other one is a TLC event. Now, I love TLC matches. I think everyone loves TLC matches. The one thing is, just do one per show. 2 or 3 per show will be overkill, and it will lose the meaning of the TLC match. Not, completely, the TLC meaning of the TLC match, but the meaning of a TLC match for that pay-per-view at least. It wouldn't mean, something like, say if you have 3, ladder matches per show, you're not going to say, oh, this is something we don't see that much. I don't think, it will work out. Now, the other thing that will really work out, and I'm hoping they'll actually do this. This is one that I'm really hoping that actually gets passed, and this is the tournament. They got an idea to maybe have a tournament-based pay-per-view. Now, I don't know if it's going to be the resurrection of the King of the Ring tournament, or it's just going to be some other tournament they're going to do, but I'm all for wrestling tournaments. I like, the PWG Vola tournament, the IWA Mid-South Ted Petty Invitational. Unfortunately, IWA just went out of business, and the Ted Petty Invitational, unless, some other company picks it up or thinks about, doing the Ted Petty Invitational. The Ted Petty Invitational, unfortunately, is no more, which is a sad thing. I was never a huge fan of IWA Mid-South. I thought it was, a decent company. It just wasn't my cup of tea. I didn't like the company overall for the most part, but they did make some talent like a Claudio Castagnoli, like Chris Hero. CM Punk got his first start there, and several other guys that got their start there and then went to Ring of Honor and now are either in TNA or WWE for the most part. Some talent got their start there. So it's sad they went out of business, but it doesn't really shock me they went out of business. And that's pretty much it. I just wanted to come on here and get my thoughts on Bryan Danielson going to WWE, Rey Mysterio's 30-day suspension, and a few other topics I wanted to discuss. So yeah, that's it. Peace.